So Trump just told us to go buy more stocks. And with Jerome Powell set to resign in 2026, I believe that it's a very high chance that we're going to see extremely low rates in 2026, which is also very favorable for stocks. In today's video, I want to show you guys why I believe Nvidia is one of the best stocks to invest in for 2026 and why I'm betting pretty heavy on the stock. I'm also going to show you guys two major economical events that are taking place next week that you have to pay attention to. So I value your time. With that being said, let's get right into it. So you guys have been keeping up with the market. We know that SPY almost hit a new all-time high, but tech-heavy ETFs like QQQ have actually been lagging behind. And this is primarily because you've had tech/AI companies like Meta, Amazon, Nvidia, Microsoft not performing too well in the past couple of months. And I believe that we can all come to agreement at this point that the AI bubble has not popped, right? Primarily because Nvidia, TSMC, AVGO, right? All these AI-related companies have been reporting really good earnings report, and more importantly, they've been raising their future guidance, showing that there's still a lot of demand for AI products. But I think investors are still a little bit concerned of the amount of capex these companies are spending on AI-related products, right? Whether it's data centers or other things of that nature. But I really believe that the main reason why the market has been going sideways or seeming a little bit bearish the past couple of months is primarily because of this. All right, so one of the reasons why I believe the market has been going sideways for a while, or, specifically the tech/AI companies I mentioned at the beginning of the video, why they've been going sideways or trending down for a while, is because of the uncertainty in the labor market. So this is one of the big economical events I was talking about that you have to pay attention to that's coming up next week. So this is the unemployment rate that's happening December 16th, which is going to be a Tuesday, and it should be coming out 7:30 a.m. So the forecasted unemployment rate should be about 4.4%, which should be in line with the previous unemployment rate, which was 4.4%, right? So expect to not see a jump in the unemployment rate. So you guys remember we just came out the biggest government shutdown in history. And one of the negative outcomes of this government shutdown was the fact that the government announced that we weren't going to get important economical data for the month of October. Obviously, the market didn't like this, right? The Fed announced that, they're kind of running blind, not having the economical data to make, the monetary policy to make the best decisions for the economy and whatnot. So if unemployment comes in higher than expected, I honestly think that this is going to crash the market. When I say crash, I don't mean like a 10% crash, but I think it's going to allow the market to continue to go sideways, or even worse, have some type of downtrend for the next couple of weeks or months or so, however long this may last, right? Because there's already so much uncertainty in how the labor market looks with all the, job cuts because of AI and whatnot. So with all this uncertainty being around the labor market, we don't want to see an unemployment rate go up a significant amount. So keep an eye on that. This is going to allow you to know how to kind of, structure your investments, right? We see unemployment rate go up a lot. You may not want to be too aggressive in buying things, right? Kind of wait to see how the market is going to react after this comes out. So keep an eye on this. So the other big economical event that you want to keep on your radar coming out next week is going to be the Bank of Japan interest rate decisions, right? So the Bank of Japan plans to hike interest rates to 0.75% in December and 1% by next September. So they're going to make their final decision, I think, December 19th. And you want to keep an eye on this because this is very important. And the reason why this is important is because of something called the carry trade. But those who know what the carry trade is, it's basically when an investor borrows money from a country that has a lower interest rate and they take that money to invest in other assets. So historically, Japan has had a really low interest rates, even at some point interest rates being negative, but mainly it's kind of fluctuated around that 0% interest rate, right? Which made it really appealing for investors to go and borrow money from, their currency and whatnot. So the fear is that as Japan starts to increase their interest rates, this could unwind the carry trade. And this has happened before in 2024 that caused the market to have a big pullback. So if Japan does increase their interest rates in their next meeting, which is going to happen in December 19th, right, which is next week, the market could react negatively to this. So this is something that you definitely want to keep in your radar to see how the market reacts whenever the Bank of Japan does eventually increase their interest rates. All right, so I hope that made sense to y'all. So basically what we know is that the AI bubble has not popped, right? You got companies like Nvidia, TSMC, AVGO, right? Your heavy AI-related companies having extremely good earnings support, raising their guidance, showing that there's still a lot of demand for AI. So that's not the issue. But it seems like the market still is a little bit scared of what the labor market looks like. And, and all the huge capex that these companies are spending on AI, on data centers and things of that nature, right? And there might be some uncertainty with the Bank of Japan trying to raise their interest rates with the whole carry trade situation. So there's still some type of uncertainty that may cause some type of volatility in the short term, right? So in the short term, the market may keep on going sideways or may even go lower and trend lower for however long it's going to take, right? I can't predict that. But what I do know is that Nvidia could still potentially be a really good investment in the long term. And let me show you guys why. All right, so taking a look at the screen, this is basically how I'm playing out the situation, right? So what we know is that the biggest company in the world, Nvidia, is down a significant amount from its previous all-time high after having a pretty good earnings report, right? So we know that Nvidia is not going down because of its fundamental financials. We know that it's going down primarily because of the economical issues that's been going on, right? And a lot of uncertainty with the CapEx spending on AI and whatnot. If we go back a little bit further back in time, you guys can see that Nvidia has basically been going sideways since July, right? We've basically been going sideways, fluctuating around the same range. So in a situation like this, if you believe in Nvidia long term, you have to find good levels of support to dollar cost average in. Because like I said earlier in the video, in the short term, the market could continue to go sideways, or even worse, right? Nvidia can continue to crash. You have no idea when the bottom is going to be. You have no idea how low Nvidia is going to go, and that's perfectly fine. But you got to find good levels of support to consistently dollar cost average, right? In my case, I'm buying leaps on Nvidia, right? Long-term options that expire in like 2028 or late 2027 to give me a lot of time for things to play out. Because like I said, I don't know what's going to happen short term. It's just not the market. This isn't like the type of market condition where you want to be betting short term on things, because it's just a lot of uncertainty and it's a lot of volatility in the short term right now, right? So let's talk about the levels of support I'm talking about. So right now, Nvidia is trading at 176. My next buy and when our dollar cost average in the leap options that I have for Nvidia will be the support level that we saw back here around that 165 to 170 range. So if Nvidia goes below 170, I'm going to buy another leap contract that expires late 2027 or in 2028. So if you don't want to buy leaps, you can just buy Nvidia itself and buy shares and just be patient, right? The next level of support that I saw was the previous high before we had the massive crash from the terror situation that we had back in April, right? So this range was around at like 140 to like, let's say 145 to 150, right? So basically if Nvidia dips below 150, then I'll buy another leap contract expiring, late 2027 or 2028. But my point is that set good levels of support to where that you're comfortable with dollar cost averaging into the stock that you like, right? Because in the short term, like I said, nobody knows what's going to happen. I don't know if Nvidia is just going to turn around and find a new all-time high, or I don't know how low it's going to go. It could go to 130, right? So my point is that you don't know, and there's no point in trying to time it, right? Think long term, right? I believe that Nvidia's fundamentals are still intact. The company still looks really good, and it may take into the next earnings report before the market starts appreciating the company again and people start buying back in and it starts going back up to potentially new all-time high, right? But you want to give yourself enough time for all of this to play out, because like I said, you don't know what's going to happen in the short term, right? So I believe that Nvidia still a good company, but you got to be patient with this and you got to give it time for things to play out. So I hope this makes sense to you. And like I said in the video, I cannot predict the future. Nobody knows 100% of the time what's going to happen. So make sure you do your own research and make sure this makes sense to you. But me personally, I believe that Nvidia is still a good company. I think it's going to take a little bit of time for things to play out, right? Because the market's dealing with a lot of uncertainty right now. But I'm willing to wait and be patient, dollar cost average for the long run. So let me know what other stocks you guys are looking forward to getting into. Let me know if this makes sense to you. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.